This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is the website building platform that anyone can use to have a website up and running in minutes. Watch until the end of the video to learn more and get access to a special offer.
Scientists weren't aware of it, doctors weren't aware of it. If you think of Cary Grant and, the era of my father, your grandfather, they weren't obsessed with being muscular.
As someone who watches way too much YouTube, I've come across several videos now discussing physique inflation. It's a real concern that warrants discussion, but it also paints a pretty bleak picture of fitness in a number of ways. So let's see if we can put a different spin on the problem. The term physique inflation describes the observation that the average gym goer today is significantly more muscular and ripped than they were 10 or 20 years ago. Scroll through social media and you'll be greeted by an endless stream of physiques, any of which could have been considered to be absolutely elite several years ago, and none of which make much of an impact today among a sea of similar bodies. We're talking ridiculously low body fat, ripped abs, 16-inch biceps, tree trunk legs, crazy lat spreads, the works. And this isn't just aesthetic, because you're also going to find people in their teens bench pressing and deadlifting more than the professionals did a decade ago. This has an unavoidable impact on our psychology and on our willingness to train and work out. If you're starting out and you're struggling to see any gains, it can be disheartening to see an endless parade of people that have your ideal body and make it look easy. What's worse though, is that those bodies are often completely unobtainable for most people. And that's not unobtainable in the sense that it's really, really hard, it's unobtainable in the sense that it literally is impossible. Because the people you're seeing probably have elite genetics, do fitness for a living, meaning they can train all day, and likely use performance-enhancing drugs. And if they're big on social media, they're probably rich too, which certainly helps with accessing all the necessary supplements and drugs. Those physiques are off the table for most of us. There are a lot of people like this out there, but the problem is also amplified in a number of ways. By, for example, social media giving us access to everybody's best days, how they look in perfect lighting, with a pump. I once heard that social media causes us to compare our outtakes to other people's highlight reels, and I think that's a really good analogy. Social media rewards and spreads the very most extreme content, most extreme physiques. Elite physiques therefore get the most clicks, and so they get the most eyeballs. And so the average physique of someone on Instagram or TikTok becomes unrealistically large and shredded. Real physiques get buried. You can't stand out unless you're also willing to sacrifice huge amounts of time and money, even your health, to get there. Of course, there are also lots of positive reasons for physique inflation. For example, we of course have more information than ever before and access to more information individually. We have access to better gear as well and equipment, and our general health and nutrition is better, which means that the average person who works out is probably in better shape than the average person who worked out 10, 20 years ago. This is a really good thing. So the problem only really lies at the extreme ends of that spectrum. And this skews our perception of what's normal. At the same time, it's the fact that these people are always being shoved in our faces. So it's not so much the physique inflation that's the problem. It's not the fact that we're all getting stronger and that the very strongest are even stronger. The problem is our perception of that and our reaction to that. So what's the point, right? Why bother if the lifts you upload to Instagram are just going to be met with disparaging comments telling you that you're mid, despite years of work? Why bother if your very best effort isn't going to make you outstanding in any way at all? If your physique still won't turn heads? Man, what a depressing view of fitness. Counter-argument, who cares? I mean, literally, what possible difference does it make to you how a stranger looks on Instagram? None. Sure, you might feel disheartened that you'll never look like Sam Sulek, but you were never going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger either. You were never going to look like Lou Ferrigno, or Frank Zane, or probably even Eugene Sandow. Sorry to be a bummer. There have always been outliers that get shoved in our faces to make us feel bad and buy supplements, or to inspire us to do our best. You decide. And these people are still the outliers. If you can bench 120 kilograms, you're probably stronger than 99% of people you're going to meet in your daily life. What world is this where it's considered pointless to be in the top 1% of fitness? Still though, if you post these pictures on social media, they're probably not going to go viral. You probably won't turn heads if you take your top off at the beach. And you might even find that you get some commenters telling you that you look rubbish. I get called fat in comments occasionally. Me? But the thing is, social media is not reality. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people, especially young people, fall into. We spend so long on social media that becomes the reality instead of, what actual people that you interact with might think. Those people calling your physique mid probably aren't in great shape either. They're called keyboard warriors, and we're not bothered by what they think. In fact, very often, they're simply bitter and twisted because they can't get into the shape they want to, and so they're lashing out at the world, or just trying to get a response. Genuinely, some people just want to see you get upset and angry, which is their problem, not yours. Or they've been so brainwashed by social media that they think a 500-pound deadlift is mid, even though they can't do anything close to that. It's like people watching a game of football and saying, I could have saved that. Not that I ever watch football, so I don't really know, but you get the point. Learning to ignore what other people think about your physique is a crucial lesson in the age of social media. And it's one that I really had to learn as a YouTuber. I've even had whole videos made about me, talking about how lame and wrong I am. Me. One guy made a video about me saying that I was living proof that exercise is bad for you because I look so old and haggard. Guys, I'm just a parent. That's normal. Honestly, it was so random and hilarious that I couldn't be mad. My mates thought it was hilarious. And some people asked me why I wouldn't make a response video to a video like this. This was years ago, by the way. But why bother? That video had like 15,000 views or something at the time, I think. And only about 20% of those people were probably my regular viewers. And probably about 30% of those people would have watched a significant portion of the video, because most people click off after 2 minutes. Of those 30% who watched the whole thing, probably only 20% would have agreed with the insane guy in the video. And that insane 20%, they likely wouldn't be persuaded by anything I would have to say anyway. They believe that exercise is bad for you, and they're gonna follow the guy who took the worst shots of me as evidence of that. Recently, I had a video made in response to my anti-steroids video, which kind of missed the point that I made in that video entirely. My point being that it's a bad idea to take steroids for performance if you aren't specifically training for performance outside the gym. If you want to be good at fighting, don't take steroids, do martial arts. If you want to be good at running, don't take steroids, run. And ruining your health isn't functional because being healthy is more important than your bench press to your overall performance. My point was that ruining your health just for clout is dumb. Kind of the point that I'm making now, in fact.
Some people aren't so lucky and will keep doing it and doing it and doing it and abusing their bodies. You may look good on the outside, but it can be destroying you on the inside.
This perception that everybody else is doing insane things, this is what can lead people to feel the need to do steroids, feel the need to try fad diets or take extreme fat-burning supplements, or to develop things like body dysmorphia. This is where fitness then becomes unhealthy. Only a fraction of my subscribers watch any of my videos. It's not that deep. None of it is. And it's the same in real life. This is called the spotlight effect. We all think that everybody's looking at us, everyone cares what we're doing, but nobody does. We think our battles are extremely important to the entire world, but it's just not the case. If you work really hard at the gym and someone makes a negative comment about you on social media, or even in person, it's meaningless. It doesn't reflect how other people think. You can't change their mind, you shouldn't want to. That's one delusional person's opinion. They are a vocal minority, because guess what? No one else cares. Do you think that the people in my office or the parents at school pickup know who Chris Bumstead is? Or Alex Eubank? No. And if I showed them who they were, they still wouldn't care. Neither would any of my mates. Some completely bonkers individuals on social media act like you're actively competing with these insane outliers when it comes to dating and clout. But you're really not. There's likely not one person at the club you're going to tonight, and even if there is, if they don't have game, they're not going to get anywhere anyway. Here in the real world, people just don't care about your abs. Because most people are way too busy with their own stuff. Which, by the way, is also why they don't also bench 150 kilograms. Fitness just so happens to be one of my hobbies. I know people who are incredible at art, incredible at playing instruments, incredible at dance. Everyone's got their own thing. Of course, I think everyone should have a basic level of fitness, but the notion that everybody's working out at some super high level is just deluded. And the idea that everybody is going to care whether you're at a super high level or not is also very misguided. It's entirely fabricated on social media. Exercise because you enjoy it. Work out so that you have more energy to do the things that you want to do. Get strong and fast and fit enough to pursue your hobbies and interests. Build a physique that you think looks good and take your time getting there, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing. And remember, those guys on PEDs are not healthier than you, they're not in any way fitter than you. They've actually just really compromised their health and their fitness in order to get online clout. And it only works if we all get so wrapped up in these crazy physiques and lose sight of what it actually means to be fit and healthy. Don't be so warped by social media that you're willing to take dangerous drugs to be fitter. I shouldn't have to explain why that's a contradiction.
It must be a side effect of the new venom he's on, which means his mind is under the same strain.
Just like being so extremely massive that you get out of breath climbing the stairs and can't scratch your own back is not something we should be aspiring to. This is what makes it all so tragic. Young guys feel pressure to compete with others online, so they become obsessed about working out, eat a crazy diet and consider life-threatening drugs. But they're competing with ghosts, chasing constantly shifting goalposts. Now, one objection you might have to everything I'm saying is that you need an outstanding physique to make it on social media. But I would argue that no, you don't. Guys, look at me. I have over 900,000 subscribers, flex, on YouTube. This is my full-time job and I absolutely love it. But by social media standards, I do not have an elite physique or elite performance. I've made my fitness career with a good enough physique. My legs aren't particularly big, and as commenters are happy to point out, I have a little flab around my waist. I'm not going to stress about these things. I'm healthy, so why does it matter? My bench was 150 kilograms, but right now it's 135 kilograms. That's laughable for a lot of fitness influencers. I can do handstand push-ups, 2 in a row if it's a very good day, but only 50% of the time. You guys don't know how embarrassing it is when I'm like on camera or something and I'm trying to do a handstand and I just can't do it that day. But I managed to stand out and gain followers by being different. I'm the guy that tells you how to train like Batman. I create 3D animations in Unity. I film outdoors and throw a kettlebell around. My training style is a combination of calisthenics, kettlebell training, weightlifting, martial arts, mobility, athletic training, which I think is a unique offering. And I make these montages of me doing my best moves from all those things to cool music, and it looks cool. But there's so much I can't do. Don't measure yourself by other people's standards, and don't judge yourself on a single metric like size or deadlift. I think this is a really important guideline, actually. Measuring yourself on just one metric is a recipe for disaster. When you focus on just one thing like this and take it to its limit, you necessarily must let the other metrics fall by the wayside. And as you improve further and further, you'll be forced to take increasingly extreme measures to keep pushing that one metric. Ultimately, this leads to self-destruction in all walks of life. Whereas if you measure your performance on multiple different factors, then you're always going to be improving and you can't compare yourself directly to anyone else. Therefore, to be the very fittest version of yourself, you ironically must reject the whole notion of being the very strongest, the whole notion of perfection. Because if your goal is to become the strongest, it means being willing to sacrifice your speed, your mobility, your endurance. When we judge ourselves this way, PEDs are the only logical conclusion. So you start looking to alternate measures. Whereas if you're looking at multiple factors like your overall health, how you feel, how you sleep, then suddenly steroids are off the table because they're a bad idea. Let's look at an example outside of fitness. Businesses that only watch profits will make increasingly brain-dead decisions to ensure that the line keeps going up. In the long run, this only destroys their relationship with customers, destroys employee loyalty, and often results in the company failing under its own weight. Even cross-modal activities like CrossFit are typically very prescriptive. There are set movements, and your goal is to excel within that set framework, someone else's framework. Ultimately, you're still focusing on a single metric, your CrossFit performance. It just so happens that it's an aggregate of those other arbitrary metrics. And this means that you're still comparing yourself to other people. It still means that you might be trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and thus your training must necessarily prioritize things that others have identified as important, while de-emphasizing other things. There must be a certain amount of homogeneity among those that practice this form of fitness, and of course we've seen how extreme CrossFit performance can lead to injury. In fact, it's kind of famous for it. This is why we need to turn to Bruce Lee and practice no way is way. And to that end, I want to propose an alternative to something like bodybuilding, where the emphasis is on building the body, and instead suggest body craft. Not building or growing the body, not focusing on just one thing, not following a prescribed doctrine, not trying to be the best. Rather, body crafting is crafting your ideal body, choosing what you want to be, what traits you want to focus on, becoming something unique depending on your own goals and preferences, creating a body as a form of self-expression and to facilitate honest expression. Because why should we all be striving to have the same physique anyway? It makes no sense when we're all so different, and it's boring. Now I know someone in the comments is almost bound to say, Adam, why are you telling people not to work out or not to have aspirations? Clearly that's not what I'm saying. People accuse me of this occasionally. I have a fitness channel, like it's my passion and hobby. I'm obviously not telling you not to work out and not to push yourself or do your best. All I'm trying to say here is that you shouldn't be competing with anyone. A, because a lot of the time they're cheating, a lot of the time what you're seeing isn't real, but also just because you shouldn't be competing with anyone anyways. You should be doing your own thing. You should train because you enjoy it. You should train to move. You should find something unique to you, explore it. It's not a competition, it's not a race, and it only becomes destructive when you treat it that way. Physique inflation does not matter because it does not matter what anybody else is doing.
Most important is not the best. You have to be yourself and more creative.
And yet to do this, we must reject the very notion of perfection. Take some time to reflect and ask yourself what really matters to you. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What could you do that would be genuinely unique and cool, that would stand out? What can you bring to the table? We forget perfect because the only way to achieve a perfect score is by limiting yourself to an existing framework. You can get a perfect score on a maths test, but perfection doesn't exist in the real world because it's subjective. My physique is worse than most fitness influencers, and my deadlift is smaller. But I can do this weird push-up thing where I do push-ups on one hand and then a handspring and then a clapping push-up, and people seem to really like it. And the people I look up to are the ones trying something genuinely new, being creative with their fitness, enjoying their vitality, people who are free from the constraints of a pre-existing framework and free from the pressures of social media. But ironically, because they're so different, they're often the ones that stand out and end up getting a lot of views. And don't worry about portraying an image of perfection. True confidence is being able to show your mistakes and your failures, your learning process. Nobody's perfect, so why pretend otherwise? This is true fitness, and I think it's a far more worthy pursuit than trying to impress random people online and destroying your health in the process. So who cares about physique inflation? Bye for now. By the way, guys, this video was sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace, for those who don't know, is a website building platform that makes it extremely easy for anybody to build their own website in no time at all and with zero coding knowledge. To get started, all you need to do is choose from a number of different pre-made templates and then customize it to your heart's content, or use the AI tools to build something completely bespoke from scratch in just as little time. And you can have a fully functional website that looks modern and pristine, up and running in literal minutes. It's genuinely that easy. And from there, you can add all the different features you could possibly want. Gated-only members content if you want to try and generate revenue from your blog posts and things, to appointment scheduling and booking so that you can take appointments from clients, a comprehensive suite of e-commerce tools so that you can sell products, you can accept any kind of payment, and all this means that Squarespace is perfect whether you just want to create a small blog as a creative or an entrepreneur, or whether you need to build a website for your business, just like some of the very biggest brands on the web have done. So if you want to find out more, then head over to squarespace.com. When you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/pioneer and you'll get 10% off your first domain or website. Thanks very much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thanks to you guys, and bye for now.